and good evening to everybody, and a very, very warm welcome. And welcome to Elizabeth Shahiki, who is joining us from the noble country of Kazakhstan. Our very good friend Elizabeth.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Is joining us. Lovely.
It's very late in Kazakhstan, and she's up watching our broadcast. That's very nice of you.
We've got Christine and all sorts of people joining us. Now, tonight is a very, very special evening. We are joined by Simon Parkes, who, I'll just tell you, for those of you that don't know about Simon Parkes, I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overall briefing. He is a very, very special being. And in fact, we have had tremendous difficulty basically tuning in about what is happening.
Blue screen, yes.
We've lost the screen. Okay, my gosh. Okay, I'm just going to close this up. How is that? Can that be seen now? Let us just see this. Can everybody see that now? Can you see us now? Is there a picture now?
No, still no picture, but sometimes there's a delay, so...
Still no picture.
No, they still can't see us. Blue screen.
Okay, so this is really very, very annoying. But we are going to push forward with this interview, and if you can hear me, we are going to push forward.
Can you see if you can do something?
Let me see if we can get Simon onto the screen. Simon, can you see Simon on the screen now? We're just going to check and see, and you can see us just in the right-hand corner of Simon there. So we are just right there.
We still can't see anything.
You can hear and you can see us in the logo, blue with the logo.
Yeah, now Simon's on the screen.
Good, you can see Simon. Simon, good evening to you. I'm going to introduce you while you are live here on the screen. And I'm just going to tell people a little bit about you, because I know you're probably a very humble man. Simon Parkes is a lifelong experiencer of aliens, shadow people, elementals, and UFOs.
Yeah, that's okay.
These include mantid, mantis beings, draconis reptilian, feline, small and tall grey creatures, crystalline beings, and other creatures that can't be identified. Simon was an elected politician and served a full term of office. Simon's mother worked for the British Security Service, MI5, between 1965 and 1979. However, while she was managed by British intelligence, she was in fact working jointly for the National Security Agency, the NSA of America. Her job was to type out documents that related to crashed UFO craft that had come down all over the Earth's surface and had then been retrieved by American Special Forces stroke recovery teams. Simon's grandfather, who was a British diplomat, worked for the foreign arm of British intelligence, MI6, but again, apologizing. I've never had this much difficulty. Hang on one second. Here we go.
Simon, you have to come here, and we have to do it live from here. You have to come and stay.
We'll have to come. You have to come and
stay. That's actually just what I've said to my wife, that we will drive down to you if we can't do this, and then we will do it live in your castle.
That's what we'll do. How is that coming up? Is that coming up?
See.
We can. What can people see now? I don't know. Okay, so who can see what now?
No
here we go.
Oh,
here
yes,
we go.
We're all back. We're all back.
How is Simon? Simon is shut out.
No, Simon's
no, Simon is here.
But there's something in the middle.
Good. I'll hide this in the middle. Good. So now we are both back. Okay.
Sound check.
Everyone. That's good. Okay. So I'm going to continue doing my introduction. Simon's grandfather, who was a British diplomat, worked for the foreign arm of British intelligence MI6. But again, in his case, he was clearly associated with the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA of America. During this time, he was awarded the Order of the British Empire Medal, as well as the Commander of the British Empire CBE Medal. However, he turned down a knighthood from the Queen. Simon's grandfather was also a prominent Freemason, and it was Britain's appointed diplomat to the United Nations in the late 1950s and the early 1960s. Simon went public with his story in 2010, and since then has toured the UK speaking at conferences. Initially attacked by the establishment media in a concerted effort to discredit him, however, an event in 2013 was to be a game changer, when Simon was invited by the Ministry of Defence, the MOD, to join a small party being given a tour of a secret space radar base in the UK. This totally confounded the established media and has led to a far more serious appraisal of Simon's story by them. Simon has assisted a growing number of people who have come forward from Illuminati families, bloodlines, where they have suffered torture and trauma, many from MyLab situations, which I'm not sure what that is. But
military abductions.
Oh, abductions. Well, there we go.
Alien abductions.
Simon is able to reintegrate any alternate personalities that the individual may have, remove any jinn or demonic possession, and deactivate any suicide programs placed in the person. Now, Simon, welcome to Camelot.
Hi, Simon.
You've been very, very patient. You've been very, very patient. And
toes crossed. Let's hope that this can hold. I have to say that I've done lots of interviews, don't normally have this level of interference. So I can only conclude that this is a pivotal interview, and somebody or something doesn't really want it to go ahead.
Good.
I agree.
I don't disagree. Now, what I am going to say is a brief caveat. You know, King Arthur said the table was round for a reason. And what we like to do here at Camelot Castle is give everybody an opportunity to communicate their truth. And what Simon has to say tonight will be very illuminating for some people, I'm sure. This is what we call a buyer beware program. If you believe what you're going to hear tonight, that is entirely up to you. It is up to you to take it or not take it. We are not vouching for the truth or the untruth of anything that you hear tonight. And on that basis, if we're all willing to participate in that, what I would like all of you to do is start watch parties on your Facebook pages, and please share this into as many groups as we possibly can.
Can you just check that your microphone for Simon is good? Because some comments are here that Simon's sound is not great.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I just turned it up.
I just
turned it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully it will be better. And so many people here on the feed have been waiting for this interview.
They most certainly have. Now, Simon, not all of our viewers are familiar with your subject. And in order to give everyone a chance to understand this area, we would be very grateful if you were to treat us all as beginners and tailor your answers, covering the very basics so everybody can follow. And your first question was, darling?
Yes, well, this question actually came up before when we had something similar on a similar subject. And could you just give us a very basic overview of dimensions and clarify the differences and what is important to understand on the subject of dimensions in order to follow what's coming in further in an interview.
Do you mean the dimensions in terms of the multiverse?
Yes, it's like, you know, you talk about the interdimensional beings and, you know, exactly that.
Certainly. Well, about 4 years ago, the Hadron Collider, for the first time in modern science, actually proved there was a fourth dimension. The Hadron Collider punched a hole through into the fourth dimension, which was about 1 millimeter in diameter. But nevertheless, now there is science to show that there is a fourth. There are 12 major dimensions, but that is why on your analog clock, it runs from 1 to 12. And on the seasons of the year is 12, and in the old measurements it was 12 inches in a foot, because 12 is a number 3, 6, 9, 12 that was given to us. But there are 12 major dimensions. The human group predominantly in the 5th and 6th dimension, although of course there are other alien groups that run alongside them. Between this dimension, the 3rd and the 6th, is a physical world. These are the physical dimensions. The 7th dimension is the bridge between two worlds. It is the physical and the non-physical connection. And then the 8th, 9th, 10, 11, and 12 are purely energy forms. So if somebody was to visit us from the 10th or 11th dimension in New Age parlance, we would refer to them as a light being, because all you would see is bright white light. So from the 6th upwards, it's an energy field, and from the 6th downwards, it's the physical world.
Well, that is very, very interesting. Could you give us some sort of an idea as to how your journey here started? How did things get started for you?
My very earliest first memory, I think probably I was a six-month old baby, and I remember a tall being, which today we would call a mantis or a mantid, coming and leaning over the cot or the crib, reaching in, lifting me up. I couldn't even lift my head, so I remember my head falling forward and my chin hitting my chest. The thing with mantis or mantid is they telepathically communicate through their eyes. They are able to send telepathic communication from one eye to the next down the retina and the actual nerve cord, whereas a grey alien can't do that. The greys do a scattergun approach. And so I remember being lifted up. These things are quite tall. They must be 7, 8 foot, and being put into a position where I could look into its eyes. And the very next thing I remember is as if I was falling. So that's my very first memory, and I would be about 6 months old, something like that.
And was your mother at the time already making a record of the landings, or was that after you were born?
No, I was born in 1959, and this would have been I lived in Hove, a place in Sussex, in 1963, and then moved to Brighton in 1964. I think at this stage it would have been in Hove. So my mother wasn't doing anything with the secret work until about 1965. Prior to that, she worked for a legal firm.
Yeah. Could you give some sort of an idea as to, you know, the history of this planet, past and present, as it relates to the alien races, and what is this planet in a nutshell?
Well, this is a water world, where it's an incredibly red planet. That's how they refer to it, the water world. There's only one other water world, and that's in the Sirius star system. So that is the beauty of this planet. We have a tremendous amount of water, some which we have ourselves and some which came from Mars when the atmosphere was stripped off that. In terms of the way that we're looked on, unfortunately, it's not a zoo, it's more of a prison. Humanity, as we understand it, started approximately 250,000 years ago in terms of the ability to think in the same way that we can. Before that, humanity was very limited in its outlook. So we have just enough DNA strands to be able to think and to work, but we do not have enough DNA strands to be able to outthink the prison guards. So we have a situation on this planet where our thinking generally runs on railroad lines, simply because if we would think out of the box, we would then outperform those people who are trying to hold us as prisoners. So for the last 200,000 years, humanity has existed not as an experiment, but as a prison fish tank. I think that's the best way to look at it. However, there are other entities who don't see it like that. They see it that we are on a journey of freedom, and so increasingly they have become involved to try to push humanity to evolve at a quicker rate.
That's very interesting. And what are the main races that play important roles on this planet, and what are their levels of involvement? Is it something that just happens very rarely, or are they active on a daily basis?
When humanity became more aware, a group or a lot of these aliens had to become covert. When humanity was very primitive in its understandings of laws and rituals, and these beings could move, I can't say freely amongst us, but they would certainly be seen as the gods, and they would be worshipped and revered. And then as humanity began to develop, then this whole system had to change and alter. A lot of it's to do with the last ice age. In terms of the beings, there are hundreds of different groups, but the ones that have had a pivotal effect upon the Earth are without question the reptilian group and offshoots such as we call the Anunnaki, and their servants, the Greys, and then we can, to a lesser extent, what we call Mantid or Mantis, the Nordic group, are a whole range of other groups that have played greater or lesser roles, but it is the reptilian group that has the most to answer. And of late, it is the artificial intelligence which has begun to invest, and I mean that not in terms of money, but invest in the control of humans. So from an organic perspective, it is reptilian. From a non-organic, it is the artificial intelligence, which are issues for us now.
Well, that's very interesting. Now, we hear a lot about the reptilians, and I'm assuming these are the same reptilians that David Icke refers to, or perhaps they're not. But people do have certain misconceptions with regard to them. Could you speak to that a little bit?
I've got a lot of time for David Icke. I think it was very difficult for him because he had to broach a subject which perhaps hadn't been, understood and looked at, and maybe with hindsight he might have brought the subject around in a different way. But certainly it gained attention. They don't quite have the same take that he does. We all have a soul in our body, and the Bible is very clear, and the Bible's correct. And I do believe in reincarnation. And I think that, you can have a human soul, but you could have incarnated many lifetimes in different forms. And so you will take on a flavor or an energy of that field. What David is referring to is where a true reptilian being will use its very advanced telepathic power to take over a human. So I don't, it's very hard for a concept here, but if you can imagine a person that is definitely human, but the way they think is totally reptilian. And this is the way they can be controlled. But there are other people who are partially reptilian. And sometimes, their part of their arm might become a bit scaly, and then it will disappear. We have children that are born in hospitals today with tails, and we're told that that's a throwback to the monkey. It's actually not. It's to do with the reptilian DNA. We have the R brain, which is the reptilian part of the brain. So medical science is not really being open with us. And anybody who has experienced these creatures, as I have, whatever we may think of them, we do have to be very cautious and careful because they are very unpredictable and they're not particularly friendly creatures.
Right. So what you're saying is you could have a reptilian soul that is occupying a human body, but then you could also have a human soul that is occupying, let's say, a dog's body or something like that, or a horse's body.
Okay, well, that's what the Buddhists believe in. I'm not sure about that. I think that the frequency of a human soul is so great that only possibly a dolphin could attain that frequency. I certainly don't think a human soul could live in an ant, but the Buddhist culture is more liberal than that. So I'm not prepared to make a call on that because I've never experienced it, but I certainly am convinced that a human soul can live in a dolphin or a porpoise.
Yes. Well, it's interesting, and different people have different realities on that. But of course, I think we understand what you are referring to in terms of what when you're talking about a reptilian alien, you're referring to a reptilian soul that has taken on human form.
Yes, correct.
Which I understand. And now, how do we, as a species, fit in with the alien races, and how are we viewed by them?
Well, unfortunately, to the reptilian group, the human is seen as an inferior group. Mammals evolve, and that's seen as a strength. We are able to adapt to our environment. In fact, it's doubtful whether humanity could have moved out of Africa had we not been able to adapt to the change in the weather there 2.5 million years ago. Unfortunately, the reptilian group have not changed for many millions of years, and they see that as a strength. They see it that they have reached the epitome, they have reached the apex, they don't need to evolve anymore. And so therefore they look on mammalian life as inferior. And that's a problem because they therefore don't treat humans with much respect. Every other group is different depending on its relationship. There are human forms which have a strong connection, Lyran, for instance, Palladian, Andromedan, Arcturan. All of these groups are human-based, part of the 12 strands of DNA, and are very supportive of humanity. But because they're good, they don't believe that they can artificially interfere. Unfortunately, the bad guys who come from the lower fourth dimension do not hold to any rules and regulations, and so they will do things without an individual's permission. And that's caused the good people, the good guys, to become more in your face. So we've seen more battles in space, we've seen more battles on the Earth, as the good side is beginning to make its presence known. So the reptilian group now is quite bottled up. There is an embargo over the planet, and there are some positive changes going on.
Now, we're going to come back to the current situation in a moment, but you yourself have had personal encounters with various different alien species. And could you just, for those of you that are not familiar with your experience there, could you just give an example of some of these, and also, so basically, what were these experiences, and how aware are you when you are talking to them? Is this a totally clear experience? And sort of what form do these beings appear in? Do they appear in actual physical form, or is it more of an experience in a dream or as a telepathic relationship?
Okay. It's not in the dream state. It will be during the daytime. And I always laugh when I read ufology books with talk about the abductions take place at nighttime. No, they don't. They can take place during the daytime because these beings have the ability to freeze time. Time doesn't actually stop. It's just very, very slow. So you could be in a room of 100 people. You could be lifted out of that. You could spend 2 hours with them, and you could be put back, and only 1 second will have elapsed. Some people call it missing time. That's the best way they count on it. I think there are some of my experiences which have been pivotal in my own development, and one that people who have listened to me will be familiar with, but if you're not, I'll go. In 1971, I had an experience where I was taken about 2:30 in the afternoon. A group of us, I was young, kids from the local place, we were all playing in the park, and we all saw what we thought was an object in the sky. The girls with me thought it was a shooting star or a meteor. I knew that it was something a bit special. Won't go into huge amount because we've only got an hour tonight. But basically,
well, we're good actually. I mean, if you're good, we're good. So I mean, you've got so many people watching the screen, and for those of you that have just joined us, I just want to say we're broadcasting here live from Camelot Castle, the birthplace of King Arthur. We're sitting here on the St. Michael line, which runs between Glastonbury. It goes through from Stonehenge through Glastonbury and goes straight underneath the sofa on which I am sitting here with my dear wife, Irina. And we are speaking to Simon Park, who is one of the world's leading authorities on extraterrestrial beings. What you're about to hear, you will not hear anywhere else. And I would ask you to share this broadcast and get this to all well-meaning people. You are with friends, Simon, and please do be open. You know, we want to hear your truth.
Thank you. Thank you. I was offered at about the age of 7 or 8 to choose which group would, I use the word loosely, manage me. I had the choice between a Draconis reptilian group managing me or a mantid group managing me. And I chose the mantid or the mantis group because I did not have a good feeling about the reptilian group. And both groups would fight over me, trying to win my choice. The reptilians are very much into swords, very, very much, and they will teach their protégés how to use the sword, how to wield a sword. It's very important to them. The mantis don't do that. And I remember 1971 being on what I always called the school in the air, but Mary Rodwell, an Australian expert who works with children who've been abducted, said to me, oh, well, we call it the school in space. And I remember being taken into what is obviously a spacecraft, which was laid out as a school, and all just girls sitting at tables, all with a round disc around their neck on a rope. And this disc was called a PED, a personal educating device. Today we would know it as a tablet, but I'm talking 1971. And as each of these children developed psychically or their ability, they would move over time up the tables. And what we would call a prefect, a girl came up to me and said, you're not staying here, you're going up, and he is coming to collect you, but I have to wait with you. And so I asked this prefect, I go, why do the kids have these things around their neck? And she replied, because they're children. I mean, she was a child, but she said because they're children and they will lose them. Very interesting, that. So this mantid creature came up to me and made me an offer. And the offer was along the lines of, would you like to be like us, to have power and knowledge, to see the future and know the past? And I said, yes. And this is all telepathically done. There was no vocal cords, nothing said. And when I said yes to this offer, then his hand, because his hand had been on my shoulders, his hand came down, took my hand, and said, then come with me. I then think it was probably 2 days because I had to sleep, and I had the most incredible experiences, which we won't have time for, but most incredible experiences, and then being put back in my body. Now my body remained in the play area. My physical body was standing still, and I remember the experience of going backwards, flying out of this craft, and then being reabsorbed back into my body. And it's not, for me, it wasn't instantaneous. It was a slow process. I felt nauseous and sick, and I couldn't move my arms. So that was important, because what had been shared with me as to who I was, what my role was, and some of the past, my own past lives, and you know, that was quite surprising and exciting for me as well.
Well, it's always exciting to, you know what is what and who is who, and that you know, always in the first instance applies to oneself. Now, at the moment in the world, we are experiencing change. Last night, I revealed to our friends here that in my personal view, the last few months have been the most wonderful and exciting time for the world. And everything that's occurred, in our view, has been really, really special and a very, very positive period for life, principally because we are discovering what is what, and we're learning who is who. And we found out a lot about ourselves, and we've also found a lot about other people, and we've seen the different ways that people respond to the various different phenomena that we are witnessing. Could you, from your perspective, orient us on what it is that you feel that we are witnessing?
The New Age always talks about learning. I don't. I talk about being given the opportunity to experience. So in other words, what's been happening is that the human race has had a whole range of experiences which it will either learn from or not, depending. What is playing out is nothing short of the birth pangs of human consciousness breaking free from a very malevolent energy field that we've had before Babylonian times, and every man and woman is making a choice as to which side of the railroad lines they really are, and we may get a critical mass figure. If we get a critical mass figure, humanity will go to the next stage.
Which is why everybody on here should share this broadcast, because the more people that have the opportunity to know the truth and to see the truth and to work out who they are and what is what, you know, that definitely helps. So I do appreciate this, and we're actually generating record numbers for this broadcast, Simon. It's very, very positive indeed. And I would ask everybody here to share this. I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this evening, over 500,000 people had seen this broadcast. Now, there are a couple of subjects that are being talked about within various different sections of the internet. And in fact, on Turkish television the other day, there was a report on the use of adrenochrome as a drug and the harvesting of adrenochrome. And I don't know if this is a subject that you know anything about, but I wondered if there is any alien involvement in that subject at all, or if that is something that you've done any research into.
For thousands of years, excuse me, malevolent entities have sought to drain the human essence, whether that is willpower, the electrical energy, consciousness, or whether it's physical fluids. That has been an ongoing situation. That technology has been traded with certain individuals who then either use it for themselves or their own half human, half something else, or they trade it. People aren't so much interested in gold and silver in other dimensions, but genetics. It is genetics that is incredibly important. So what we see coming through into the civilian sector of medicine are things that they're as old as the hills, they're as old as your hat, but they are now making their way into the consciousness of humanity. So there are a number of people, I call them people, they cannot live without a certain type of mixture. They cannot live without a certain type of drug. And so, you know, we are seeing this becoming more obvious, just as something 20 years ago would be incredibly well hidden from us. Now it's not, because human consciousness is beginning to outperform and outstrip the ability of the gods, shall we call them that, to hide it from us.
I think that's a very good analogy. Of course, you know, many, many decades ago, the British aristocracy used to use opium, and it was a very exclusive club that would use opium, or laudanum as they called it in those days. And today, of course, heroin use, which is an opium derivative, is very much a mass market proposition. And I think that is, you know, if you'd gone into, let's say, the mass market and told people about broad-scale opium use 150 years ago, nobody would have believed you. But of course, today, people are starting to wake up on those subjects. So that's our understanding of it as well, is it's essentially a way of trading in the life force of benign beings. And that particular drug, somehow, I'm not that familiar with the technology because it's not something that I've ever been anywhere near. But as I understand it, it's a mechanism for lifting the, let's say I would call it the theta, or the life energy, or the elan vital, some people call it, from a benign person, and then trading that with perhaps a less benign entity. Is that more or less a correct concept, or do you have a different concept?
Well, very, very much so. I mean, just out of interest, or just for the record, of course, it was the East India Company that started to work with poppies and the industry there. I about 10 years ago, I think I shocked the industry, if you like, by talking about hybridization or experimentation, and how the domestic cat, our ordinary domestic cat, contained a reptilian material. You see, if you're going to experiment on a human, the very first thing you do is experiment on other mammalian creatures. And I talked about how a cat will play with a mouse. It doesn't kill it, it tortures it. And when a mouse or a mammal is tortured, it releases some very interesting chemicals. And the reptilian creatures become addicted to that. And that's why children and babies are tortured by this certain group, because they release a drug to these creatures. And you will find that that is more marketable than gold or silver. But there are a whole range of materials. There are some now that keep other beings alive, keep them young. It's not just about a craving for something, it's a dependency upon it. So yes, it's a marketplace, and unfortunately humanity, or part of humanity, is seen very much just a commodity that has no rights. And I've often said, as long as on this earth people keep cattle and cows and pigs, and they kill them and they slaughter them and they eat them, well, other alien groups just turn around and say, we're only doing to you what you do to lower life forms. If humanity tomorrow gave up eating meat, this would put an enormous energy wave right up the chute, and other beings would then be forced to follow suit. It is very interesting how what occurs on this earth has a ripple effect outwards.
That's very interesting.
That is very interesting. So if it's not a rude question, are you yourself a vegetarian?
I'm not. I certainly tried, and it's something that was going to take me a long time to whittle down and reduce. I look back on my past lifetimes and my connection, and I went public with this 10 years ago. I said that I have a strong connection to a reptilian group, and when I am able to overcome that need, then I will certainly give up eating meat. But it's certainly within 12 months now. Within 12 months, I will have given it up.
That's very commendable.
Well, it has to be done. But although perhaps a lot of people would not agree with me, if you have a connection with something like what we're talking about, then you are having to overcome generational programming, and only when you reach the level of perhaps enlightenment can you do it. Well, I'm not enlightened yet. I haven't reached that high pinnacle, but at the moment that occurs, then I will be able to put to bed this dependency on meat.
I personally find I can give up meat quite easily until I reach a McDonald's. And the McDonald's programming is I get into dreadful trouble with Arena, of course, because I just sort of make a beeline for a Big Mac, and I find that they have very effective programming, which of course they do, and one feels dreadful after you've eaten one, but it is what it is. But I do agree with you completely, and I would love to, as you say, move into that ability. It's a great ability not to be able to engage in that death cycle. Now,
can we talk a little bit more about the harvesting of life force, Simon? And you mentioned a specific group of people. How prevalent is it in, there is this idea that the elites engage in it, and that's what they trade, and that's basically, it's almost like that's how you're accepted into certain circles. What is your understanding of that, and how common is this?
This is more to do with blackmail, and it's also, we should not look on it as a religion. We should look on it as a club, an elite club. So if you are invited into an elite club, which has satanic or Luciferian connections, then there will be rituals and ceremonies that go with that. Part of that is to blackmail you, but the majority of it is to bind you to this and to connect you. For instance, in 2012, I was approached by a young woman from another country whose father had sold her and her brother, when they were 6-month-old babies, to an elite organization for $1 million. Now, that was quite a lot back in 1989. When he realized what was being done to his children, he bought them back, which you can do, but he was a governor of a city and he lost that. He was the owner of a football club, not a British soccer club, a football club. He lost that, but he was allowed to keep his business because he was very useful to the elite. And what had happened, and I think it's possibly interesting for your audience, in patriarchal secret societies, the children, the males, will always inherit. But because of the torture that had been done to this boy, he was no longer capable of holding a job. So his sister, this young woman, who was 23 when she came to me, she had been tortured, but not to the extent he had. But she had 6 sub-personalities. She had a suicide program. She had a reptilian, supposedly a bodyguard, but he was something else. It took me 6 months to reintegrate her personalities, to deactivate the suicide program, Now, she came to me with an IQ of 162, which is bordering genius level, and she left me with an IQ of 184. She now works for one of the Rothschilds. And then people say to me, well, why have you helped this person? She's now working with the Rothschilds. And I say, when that child was 6 months old, she didn't ask to be tortured. She had no life at all. I've given her a life. What she chooses to do with it is entirely up to her. Now, for the audience, as you said to me, not to hide anything, when they are looking at children and they want to create them as elite managers for the future, they will put electrodes on their head and electrocute them. And what this does is it causes a scar tissue across the cortex. But because it's a young child, the neurons regrow through the scar tissue. And what it does is it increases the surface area of the cortex. So these children become incredibly intelligent.
Hello? We've just had a loss on the connection.
Let's try to get it back.
We're just going to try and get it back. Sorry about this. cannot do it. I was trying to do it. Let me just...
Simon, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you and I can see you.
Yeah, good. Sorry about this. Both the Skype crashed and the other, and the Be Live system completely crashed at the same time. I don't know why.
Well, I think we might consider looking at some point coming down to you and doing.
Yeah, I think it'd be better, to be honest with you, because I am getting a completely new system in here. Hang on. Here we go.
Are you going out on the same link, John?
Yeah, I'm going out on the same link. Hang on.
They're saying that.
There we go. We got Simon. Okay, Simon, we are here now. As you were saying, sorry, listen. What happened there? Just so everybody knows, the Skype crashed completely. The Skype crashed, and the
other one.
The other thing crashed as well. So the Be Live crashed. So that's what happened. So just carry on. We're from where we were.
I don't know where people heard up to.
They asked you, why would you help those children if she's working for Rothschilds now?
Right. And I said that because when that child was young, he or she never chose to be tortured. And that is why I do it. And what that person does with their life is their choice. I just see myself as the person that goes in and puts it right. There was an attempt on my life and this young woman, but we were very well protected, and the car was completely written off. We were rammed into. And what was interesting was the car or the van that crashed into us, its logo was I see you, and then a picture of an eye. And when you look it up on Google, it's a company that is very proud of the fact that it takes ex-CIA, ex-FBI, and it's a private security firm. And this was the vehicle that tried to take us out. So we're no shortage of excitement. And what it turned out was it was a rogue operation. In fact, that hit hadn't come down from the very top. It was a Freemasonry lodge where 3 members had acted without authority from their master or their grand master, and very cross that I had freed this young woman from their control or the control of whoever. And what was interesting was that I and the young lady were in hospital just for an X-ray to check up. And she turned to me and she said, I just had a message from them being the reptilian group, because this young woman contained the soul of a queen reptilian. And she turned to me and she said, they are asking who should die for this. And I said to her, just reply to them that no one is to die. They may punish, but they may not kill, because otherwise we are as bad as they are. So lots of interesting things, but we must always try to educate, and we must always try to help. So if somebody is genuine about wanting to regain their sovereignty, I will help them.
Well, that's very cool. And of course, that is the reason that we acquired Camelot Castle, was to assist in the restoration of personal sovereignty, family sovereignty, group sovereignty, planetary sovereignty, and of course the sovereignty of universes. And we're having some success with that here, actually, and it's very exciting, as I know you are. Now, what do you feel, could you give some sort of insight? Obviously, people have been following what's going on with the virus and so on and so forth. How do you see these developments with the coronavirus? How does this fit into your worldview?
And I was told by American intelligence that the virus had come from the Chinese laboratory. However, a rogue agent had attempted to purchase the virus from the laboratory. They met in the marketplace because it was a very populous area. Either a deal couldn't be struck. My understanding was that a deal couldn't be struck. The agent then shot the individual, and with the intention of taking the vial. It was a 3-inch vial containing this. But as the shot lab worker fell into stone floor, the vial smashed. So the Chinese are accurate when they say that it was first found in the marketplace, but they were very, very cagey about the fact that they'd been working on it. So it's a very real virus. The whole point about this was to take the virus and release it in America. The whole point was to destroy the re-election of Donald Trump, to destroy the American economy. But because it happened in China, it gave the administration in the US precious weeks to try and work out and see how they were going to do with it. The virus is mutating every 2 weeks. It is pre-programmed to do certain things. There will be a second wave. That's been prepared for. However, it will disappear as quickly as it arrived. And the problem is that those people who see this virus as an opportunity to put fear into humanity are playing it up, want to destroy economies by locking them down, destroying businesses, whether they're family businesses or small companies, they're not interested. And so what we've got is a real divide between people who are being sensible about the virus, but not overreacting, to a group of people who frankly want us to go back to the Stone Age.
I completely agree with you. I mean, the good news, of course, Cornwall is reopened. Camelot Castle is reopened. And in fact, today we had our third highest bookings day in history at Camelot Castle, which is very, very good indeed. And of course, we've been receiving here a number of fans from Camelot Castle TV network. And of course, 2 young ladies came in to see us the other day for some tea and a bit of crumpet, and because we do serve crumpets here. And they ended up on the broadcast, which was very, very fun. And we discussed how they'd gotten to hear about us and everything. And of course, so Camelot has experienced somewhat of an expansion. Of course, we have suffered along with everybody, but I do believe that you are correct. And of course, the president said at the very beginning, and it's interesting to hear you echo that, is that the virus will disappear one day quite magically as fast as it came. And this is very interesting. So what is your take from your worldview on President Trump? I mean, most of the people on here support President Trump. As a family, we have supported him since about 15 minutes after he came down the escalator. And I find him to be a very practical, a very divine soul. But I'm willing to hear a differing opinion, of course. Well, what is your opinion on the matter?
Simon's opinion, I just listened to your broadcast from 4th of July, and Simon's opinion is very much similar to yours, John. You'll be glad to know.
Oh, good.
But do tell Simon.
So, Simon, what is your view of the president, and what do you feel?
I divide humanity into 2 groups, what I call Earth humans and higher humans. Earth humans are humans at the moment of their creation by the divine God, choose to come here, as opposed to higher humans who decide to go somewhere else and then only come here at a later date. Therefore, they arrive here with a blueprint of knowledge. The President Trump's soul is a mixture of Palladian and Andromedan. So what you've got is a warrior with the Andromedan, but with the thinker, which is the Palladian. So what we've got in President Trump is a mixture of a thinker and a fighter. President Trump was approached by the United States military, who after 9/11 saw the way it was going. And the military for the last few years have been trying to remove certain elements out of their organization. And had they not found President Trump, then there would have been about 1 million United States soldiers on the streets to defend the Constitution. The military decided that it was much better to put up a politician and to work it through that. So we have a man in President Trump who is just against the satanic Luciferian elements. Look, I've said this before on my radio show that President Trump is not everyone's cup of tea. And in America, you do financial deals that we didn't advertise in Britain. But that's just the way it is in America. And whatever President Trump is, I'll tell you what he's not. He's not a pedophile. President Trump has never abused a child or a baby. And so that's why the man gets my vote, because it means that he is not controllable. He's not blackmailable. Unfortunately, you can't be a president unless you've got a huge amount of money. That's just the way it works. But here we have a man in the President of the United States who is not controlled like every other president except John F. Kennedy. So that is why President Trump is very important, because without it, you've got civil war in America.
100%. I completely concur. I completely agree. He is unowned. He is not controlled by any forces other than he has a deep respect for God, the Almighty, however one wants to describe the benign creator of us all. But
then he is not a pedophile, and that's really crucial.
He is not a pedophile, and what I have learned, having interacted with a number of principal players within the Washington, D.C. orbit, is that the principal tool for controlling politicians is blackmail material, or as the Russians call it, compromat, which includes you know, the torture of and satanic rituals relating to children. And of course, if you had photographs of a politician torturing a child, then you could use that compromising material to get them to order weapons or to turn a blind eye to a drug cartel or to engage in all sorts of things. And please don't think that governments are above this type of thing. The British government and our royal family went to war twice for the right to sell opium into China, and which we touched on earlier. So this is very, very interesting. Joe Mink says, Trump is not my friend, he is my brother. Well, you know, I think a lot of people do feel a deep, deep brotherly love for President Trump at the moment. And I think it is time that all of us use all of our telepathic and spiritual abilities to back this man. This is a window in eternity. It is the greatest opportunity for bringing order that this planet has had. And it is a tremendous opportunity. I had a phone call 2 weeks ago from a friend of mine who is very well connected in the London underworld. And he said there's going to be a large number of arrests in London, and sure enough, his information was very solid. 700 people have been arrested in England during the lockdown, and he even told me how they were going to do it through the phones had become unsecure. And very well done to our British police for an incredible success there. Now, there is something that I would like to plumb the depths of your mind for, and that is, are alien forces assisting President Trump, and are they assisting President Putin? We favor, of course, Irina's family are very closely engaged in Moscow. We favor the Russian leader. Do you see that there are forces, alien forces, that are helping certain governments? And is it as if there are certain, for instance, the Palladians have teamed up with the Trump campaign, and are there alien alliances that are either knowingly working with politicians, or are there alien alliances that are fighting against them? Are there different teams, if you like, within the verse?
Looks like he's got your question.
Both President Putin and President Trump cut all communication with the reptilian group, and they opened separate communications. Now, President Putin is in communication with a group we call the Nordic group, and President Trump is in a connection with exactly his own soul connection, which is Andromeda and the Pleiades. Now, the last few weeks of the Obama administration saw a changeover in power regarding the technology in Antarctica. And what's happened is that the release of technologies from Antarctica have been divided equally between Russia and America, because if you don't do that, you get a third world war. So what you have to do is to give both superpowers the same information, the same technology, but you put a slant on it. So the Russians have used this technology and they are going down a different route, different way with it, and the Americans have it, they're going a different route. So they are not in competition with each other, but they have the equal. Now, I had a chap who was an oil magnate from Greece who came to visit the house a couple of years back, and he'd had a meeting with Putin, and while he was in London, he came to visit us and spend a couple of hours with us. And he told me what that technology was and how the Russians were using that. And then last year, we had an American come over and tell us what the Americans were doing with it. So we've got two superpower leaders who have turned their back on dodgy deals and are very much out for their own people, their own sovereignty in their own country, and they will do whatever they need to do to maintain the protection of their people. You've got fifth dimension supporting President Trump, and you've got fourth dimension, upper fourth dimension with Putin, which means that the technology arriving on Trump's doorstep is slightly more advanced because it's fifth dimensional. But that's why you're seeing things with the Russians with hypersonic engines, because that is a natural development of the fourth dimension, whereas what you've got coming from the fifth dimension is something which is quite excitingly different, but they're not in competition. So the Russians actually are using a lot of this Antarctic technology for medical advancement. I'm hoping in the next 18 months, we're going to see a raft of wonderful machines coming out of Russia, which really take medical science forward, whereas the Americans will be doing it differently. So yes, absolutely. That's what's giving them the edge. You see, when back in the bad old days, when Obama was president, a very advanced drone that the Americans were using was forced down into Iran, and in it was a very, very advanced chip. And the Iranians got hold of that chip. This was a semi-alien, semi-human chip, and it cut the lag. The Iranians were then only between 5 and 7 years behind the Americans. So an external force will drop technologies onto different countries to make them catch up to play a game. That's why in the Second World War, the Americans had the bomb, because they took the nuclear reactor that fell in 1941 in the spacecraft and made a bomb out of it. But the Germans took the reactor, cold fusion reactor, from the Black Forest in 1933. And instead of making a nuclear bomb with it, they decided they'd use it as a propulsion system. So different cultures on the planet will see the same piece of technology, but attempt to make something different with it.
Well, I think that's so true. And that's what we always say about the knowledge that we are sharing here with people at Camelot Castle. Some people take a piece of knowledge and they use it to do good with it. And some people take a piece of knowledge and they use it to do something different with it that is equally as good or even better. And I suppose a good analogy is a mobile phone. You can use it to call your mother, or you can use it to call your mother and your granny and all of your aunts, and at the same time build a company with it or something. You know, it's how do you view that technology?
Or you can use it to sell drugs.
Or you could use it to sell drugs. That's exactly what you could do 100%. Now. We've got a lot of people on the broadcast. If anybody has any questions here for Simon, please do put them into the screen. I do want to touch on yesterday, Dr. Wakefield, or Simon Wakefield, Andrew Wakefield, released an extraordinary documentary called 1986, The Act, which exposes the corruption within the medical communities in relation to vaccination. And I would ask all of you, if somebody could put up the website in there as part of your homework over the next 48 hours, please watch that film. It is very, very important. We watched it last night. And in fact, we were up till about 2 o'clock in the morning. I am very interested in whether or not people here agree with two questions, and this is a survey for the audience. Do you agree with mandatory vaccination? That's the first question. And do you agree with vaccination at all? So 2 questions. Do you agree with mandatory vaccination? And I'd like you to answer in the comments. And do you agree with any form of vaccination? And what is your view on vaccination? And how does this relate to the alien sphere?
No, I don't agree with mandatory vaccination, and I do agree with vaccination for cats and dogs.
Oh, right. Very interesting. Now, how about the vaccine programs that are being pushed by Gates and, you know, various different companies that are producing these things in England?
Well, in Great Britain, it's a very big ritual every winter for people to get the flu jab. And what I think most of your audience probably do not know is that every time a doctor gives a flu jab, he or she receives £5 into their bank account. So the cartel, the drugs company, pay doctors £5. This is about 4 or 5 years ago, £5 for each shot. That is why they push it. You'll see posters and notices. And of course, if someone was going to give me £5 for every time I did something, I'd be telling you all to do it. So that's the issue there. I once had a chance to talk to a couple of doctors and nurses some 7 or 8 years ago in a hospital, and found that 3/4 of those medical staff refused to have inoculations because they knew what was in them. I don't doubt that the concept is good, but if you've got a lot of heavy metals like mercury and other materials in it, it's not going to do you much good, is it? That's the low level stuff. You're asking me something a bit higher. At the moment, we're in a war. We've not even talked about the interdimensionals at the moment, but we're in the war with what they call the demonic forces. For a long time, this very small elite group have sought to control their middle managers via mind control. About 5 or 6 years ago, perhaps a bit longer, they wanted to try to put an entity, let's just call it a demonic entity, into these individuals. It was a far more effective way to control them. But the entity wanted to use the human as a host and to go from the lower 4th dimension and try and actually work out into a physical body. And there's been quite a lot of interesting toing and froing to prevent that occurring. Now, that could have a connection with high bandwidth. We daren't say the number because, you know, if we mention this particular communication bandwidth, then, you know, well, hell breaks loose. But there's a possibility that a high frequency bandwidth, when engaged with certain elements in the bloodstream, can actually have a very detrimental effect to the human body.
Well, my son is 5 years old on his last birthday, and I am very, very aware that I would not like certain wavelengths being broadcast too near to his bedroom window. Out of interest, what do you feel the consequences of electromagnetic fields are around the body? Do you feel that it does do something to the body?
I think with the lower frequencies, the effect was minimal. I'm not saying there was no effect, there was effect, but they were minimal in terms of the weight. But as we've gone up through these particular bandwidths, the one that is being pushed at the moment is very, very dangerous. We could talk about 7G, 8G, and 9G. That's not a problem. That isn't a problem to the human field. But the number that's being bandied about now, that is not particularly good.
No. Well, we're actually joined tonight by Lady Lara Compton, who is very interesting. Her father basically runs the Freemasons, or is very, very senior within the Freemasons. I forget his exact title. But a very, very interesting fellow. And she says here, talking about your earlier point, they are ripped out of their bodies so that the entity can jump in.
Correct.
And
she's very aware.
She's a very, very spiritually aware person. She's probably somebody that you would enjoy meeting. And, and her father, who is Lord somebody or other, I should really know. Laura, perhaps you can put it in the comments. Is actually in charge of the Freemasons, or was the second in command, or something, grandmaster.
Well, look here. I've always said that you find more bad people in a second-hand car sales room than you would in the Freemasons.
Oh, I agree.
There are so many charitable organisations that, I should say, 3/4 of all the good works in Britain would just come to a halt if the Rotary clubs and the Dragon Societies and the Freemasons stopped doing all their work. So it's only unaware people who just malign the Freemasons. Like any organisation, there are bad people. But I want to recount something to you, which I hope your audience will be perhaps interested to hear. I'd done a conference, I think it was about 2015, 2014, and a chappie came over to me and he said, I'd like to buy you lunch. Well, in Great Britain, people don't buy you lunch. So if they buy you lunch, there must be a reason behind it. And he said that his employers had sent him from America. And he said that his exact words to me were, "You've come across my radar because my employers have come to you. And I have come to make you an offer. And I have a question for you. The offer is not dependent on the question or the answer. So if you refuse to give the answer, we will still give you the offer." So that was very good. So I said, "What's the offer?" And he said to me, "My employers, speaking of me, consider you a sacred object." He said, our job is to protect sacred objects. So he said, "I'm going to offer you armored cars, bullet-resistant cars, armed guards, should you need them." And he said, "We have bunkers under Salisbury Plain, which we sell for $1 million if the world ends. And that's already been allocated for you and your loved ones." And he said that, and this is the bit that was funny, he said, "My employers have no problem in believing what you've said. We know who you are. We know what you are. That's where I've come to see you." And I'll just tell you what the question was. The question was, he said, when you're on a spacecraft and you see the future, do you see it as a video playing out, or do you see it as individual pictures? And that was the only question that he was asked. Now, this wasn't the Freemason group. It was another group of that who specialize in relics and collecting them and protecting them. So that was great. So I have always been aware that when I buy a second-hand car, because I can never afford a brand new car, but I am more on my guard when I buy a second-hand car than when I speak to anyone from the Freemasons. And I've been invited 3 times to Freemasonry halls where I've given lectures and talks. And I've always been treated with the greatest respect.
Well, the most honest man I ever did business with himself was a Freemason. And of course, he was the owner of Camelot Castle Hotel. And we walked in here one afternoon, and after a 15-minute meeting, we made our agreement, and he stuck to it, to the spirit of the letter. And beyond that, so I would say that
he keeps his word.
He kept his word to the letter. And he is the most, I always say, he's the most honest man I've ever done business with. And I've had a wonderful, and of course people don't realize it, because they never brag about it, but they raise more money for charity in this country than the lottery, or
yes.
the second only to the lottery.
Absolutely.
And they do a tremendous amount of work. Now, there was a question last night. I did explain that at Camelot Castle, we have the finest crumpet or crumpets in the world. And there was some question from America as to what a crumpet is. And this is a crumpet. So there you go. That's what they look like. And so if you fancy a piece of crumpet, or if you like a bit of crumpet, Camelot Castle is the place to come. And I'm actually going to look forward to that bit of crumpet after the show. But there was some question about that. So I just thought I'd have my man here bring one for our Americans. But the crumpet is, of course, an English tea cake. That's what it is. But it's going through something of a renaissance here at Camelot Castle, because many places you can turn up for tea, for afternoon tea, and you can say, could I have a bit of crumpet? And you'll get a blank stare these days in England, and people don't really know what they are. But we are bringing them back, and the crumpet here is better than anywhere. Would you agree with that?
I agree, yes.
Yeah.
That's a good crumpet.
So that's what they are. Now, sorry to diverse, but I thought we'd have a little bit of an interlude there. Do share this feed. Do share this feed. I want to hear the answer to your question. When you go up into a spacecraft and you see the future, do you see it in individual pictures, or do you see it as a video?
As a video. The question, of course, was asking me, am I accessing the Akashic records, or am I accessing my own cellular DNA memory? That's what they were asking. The audience might be interested to know that I've been offered a job in America, which I've accepted.
Oh, do tell us about that. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, we're hoping to go either August, September, or October. Not sure quite when, but we've chosen Arizona, Phoenix. Been offered a 5-year contract. And what was interesting was that 2 weeks after that job offer, I got another job offer from an organization who wanted me to go to Washington, D.C. And they made me an offer that I could refuse. And I turned that one down. But the first job offer, I certainly am taking that, because what the audience might not know is that I'm the founder of a very large organization called Connecting Consciousness. And we have about 12,000 members worldwide. There's no fee. Nobody pays any entrance fee. We operate in about 110 countries. And those countries have coordinators. And in a place like America, we are recruiting state coordinators. And so these coordinators manage their membership of spiritual people who are relying onto my organization, and they will share links, they will support each other, hold meetings, and once a month these coordinators, and we do it on a Zoom link, will write a report about what's happening in their country or their state, and they share it. And I want to build 1 million membership. I want to come to the US. I want to have a healing center. I want to be able to do everything from aromatherapy in one corner to healing people who have come out of Hollywood and frankly don't know where on earth they are. So I want that. I want to be able to deal with the media. I want practitioners to be trained by more advanced trainers. I really want to build my organization. That's what I came to this planet to do. And I've taken it as far as I can in Great Britain. And so this job offer was meant to be. And we're just waiting for that to happen. And then, we're going to relocate to the US and do what we've got to do.
Well, this is fantastic. Did you say Phoenix, Arizona, or Sedona? Phoenix.
No, Phoenix.
Well, Phoenix is a very, very special place. In fact, I don't know if you know this, but we raised over 30 million for conservative groups in America. And one of the groups that we've been helping out is Turning Point USA. And we just helped with the building of a new headquarters there for them in Phoenix, Arizona, which is, of course, where Charlie Kirk now is living and is spending a lot of time there. And I think you'll find that you're in good Trump-supporting country there, but also a number of very, very important breakthroughs were made in Phoenix, Arizona. This was one of the first places that L. Ron Hubbard, who was the founder of Scientology, he did a lot of his research in Phoenix. And in fact, there is the original laboratory where he did his research is there as a museum, and you can go and see it. This is where he discovered the exteriorization of the spirit from the body, and it was the first place. It was in 1951, and he did the first experiments where you could deliberately exteriorize another person from their body at will, and so that they could leave their body and then go off wherever they went and then come back into the body. And those original experiments were done in 1951 in Phoenix. And I was very blessed because I was one of the first people in America or in the world who actually to be shown that research many years ago now, actually in 1990, which has been very useful. But I cannot speak to the positive nature of Phoenix enough. And I think you will be incredibly happy here. Now, if people want to support your work, you know, I am sure that you don't need support, but if people do want to support you, is there a way that they can donate to what you're doing? How can they find you? How can they learn more about what it is that you're doing? You've been incredibly generous with your time. How can people, is there a way that people can donate? Do you have a charitable foundation that people can donate to? How do they reach you? How do they get in touch with you? Or maybe you don't want anyone in touch with you, I don't know. But how do people reach you?
No, I do have to make a living because nobody else will ever give me a job.
No.
I do readings for people. I open my books and people can book me for 1 hour, and I will do soul reading for them, work with them. But I have a website, simonparks.org, and there is a donate button there, and that money goes to the organization. Like I said, nobody pays an entrance fee. I did not want to mix a payment of an entrance fee in with the spiritual concept that I've built. So I rely on donations, and then that pays for car journeys or booking a hall. We had a fantastic AGM last year in London, and people came from mostly Britain, but we did have a couple of people from America and from Europe, our members, coordinators who came. So we have an annual AGM meeting where the members come, and we do have lots of talks, and that costs money. So, you know, people can give £1 or €1 or $1, whatever it is. I'm very grateful for that. Or they can join. There's an application form to join Connecting Consciousness. And what that is a logo of the earth and a heart. And to join, you have to put your arrow, your cursor over the heart and click it. And that's a contract between you as an individual and the earth. So you click that, and then you fill out your application form, nothing to pay. And then, you know, we will write to you and find which country you're in, and you'll be allocated a coordinator. So this is what I'm building. I looked at people like David Icke when David set up his television and radio studio and was utterly destroyed by the system, because he had a bank manager, he had an accountant, he had all of this. And this is where the structure gets taken down. In the early days, I wanted to build with a person's heart. I wanted to make a connection with the spirit of that individual, because nothing can take that down. And once we got to a strong position, then I was thinking, now we'll think about a building. People like to see a building with a brass plaque on it saying Connecting Consciousness, head office. So, you know, I have a vision. I came to this planet to do this. All of us who are alive on this earth now are here for a reason. We could have been here 100 years ago. We may have done, or 1,000 years hence, but we're here now. And we're absolutely blessed that we are seeing a planet evolve. Can't explain that enough. You see, Lyra, which is now in the 6th dimension, originally was destroyed in the wars with the reptilians when it was in the 4th dimension. But the people from Lyra escaped, and the consciousness of those people evolved them up into the 5th, through the 5th, and then into the 6th. So consciousness as a group allows it to move up or go down. And so this is the battle. The battle is for us to evolve beyond the control of this negative energy that surrounds the earth at the moment.
You know, it's just wonderful. And, you know, I describe myself because, of course, on this group at Camelot Castle, Camelot is loved by so many people. I describe myself as an evangelical Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Zoroastrian Scientologist. Because to me, the truth can never conflict with the truth. And one of the things that, you know, is so important is that one is open to examine where the truth takes you. And it is very, very important. And I think what is so important about this group is that we welcome all genuine truth seekers. And, you know, Simon, I just want to say one thing from you, from my heart, if you like, to you, from me as a being, to you as a being, is you've had one hell of a rough old road going down this situation. You have had some incredible challenges. You have had and done some wonderful, wonderful things for people. And I just want to personally thank you on behalf of all those people out there who haven't had the opportunity to thank you personally, or actually don't have a clue how your work has already touched their lives. I just would really, really like to acknowledge what you have done. And you've been very humble in asking for help. I would ask anybody who is in a position to help you and who would like to help you to dig deep and to help in whatever way you feel you can and whatever way you want to, because it is so important. You know, the enemy is highly organized and they are very, very effective. And the good guys tend to work alone. They tend to, and this is actually where the founder of Scientology was a genius. He organized the good guys within society to take out some of these very, very destructive elements, which of course he himself came under attack for that. But I just want to acknowledge what you have done. You really have done an incredible, a marvelous, marvelous job. I don't know what you have to say, darling, but I really appreciate it.
Well, I'm very grateful to you. That's very kind. Thank you. And, you know, we all play our part. This is the time where all good people need to work together, because the vision that we share is not the vision of everyone. Imagine a mountain, and there is a small group of us who are at the top of the mountain, and we look over the horizon. And then when we come down the mountain, we meet people that are halfway, and we say, did you see that cottage? Or did you see that? And they say, no, I haven't seen that. So each person, their perception or their understanding is limited by what they can see. Now, those of us, and there's a lot of us, those of us who've seen quite far, how can you go back into the dark? How can you go backwards? So when I had all these experiences as a young boy, and there are hundreds, and I've drawn them. I've got something like 750 drawings, because these memories would come to me within minutes of them occurring, and I would quickly draw them down. They couldn't just sit in a cupboard, and I had to decide with my life: do I pretend it didn't happen and just have a standard life, or do I go out and say to people, this is the truth? And I think what was interesting for me, I did an interview with, I think it's called Breakfast Today, or the Today program. And that was a 15-minute interview I did. And it was very interesting that I was asked to do 2 drawings of 2 aliens. So I did a drawing of a reptilian and I did one of a mantis, and I was told we're not allowed to show that one, the reptilian. That's in the, this is it's going to be a live broadcast. We can't show that one. So they did the mantis, and that shows you how the power of the reptilians is so great that this TV studio were not allowed to even show that up there. And so you can go on YouTube and you can see with them, there's my drawing of the mantis behind me. And that was interesting because the television interview was okay. It wasn't difficult. It was very firm, but all right. And at the end of it, people came up to me and said, well, you know, we'd like to say a lot more, but we're not allowed to. And I thought that was excellent, because there were people there who are in the system, who are genuinely good people, but hey, they want a pension. They want future careers, and so they play the game. And that was very eye-opening for me.
Yeah, well, it is. And I think, you know, I think the point you made there about each of us has our own piece of the jigsaw puzzle, and what we may have seen on our journey. For instance, what we may have seen on our journey to, you know, arrive here in the Infinity Salon at Camelot Castle, and what you may have seen. But actually, I got a picture or a video, let's say, of you really need a museum to illustrate some of the aspects of your journey. And I think your work is supremely important. And I'm sure that you will find Phoenix to be a very, very welcoming spot, located as it is in the United States.
Did you want to ask about the Arthurian?
Yeah, I did have one question, actually.
Sure.
Obviously, we are here at the birthplace of King Arthur. What is the importance of Arthur in relation to all of this? Why is it that the Arthurian myth resonates?
Because it's
so
the
deeply?
connection of Christ. Because the Jesus energy resides within that character. It's a character who stands alone against a whole myriad of evil, both the hearts of humans who have turned evil to demonic energies or black energies, whatever you want to call it. And the truth is the connection between the man and the earth and what he stands for. And calling a group of pure people to him who should stand with him and fight with him and to defeat all the oncomers. And so that is the importance. And I have always said for the last 10 years that America is where the battle will be fought, and that is coming true. But I've said of Great Britain, it is the country of the energy. It is where the energy resides, and it is the place where the battle within the energies are fought. So Arthur was, from a historical connection, the person who could unite both the Gaelic speakers, the Romano-British, and the true Romans against the Saxon invaders. I had never believed in the medieval Arthur. I see him much earlier. I have a vision, actually, of Arthur on horseback, fighting from a Roman fort, but I mean a stone fort. So I actually believe that he was a cavalry commander. I think he used horses, and I think he was incredibly connected to the land. So yeah, I have no problem in believing a historical Arthur.
Yes, of course, there are many opinions on the subject, but what we have found since living here is that Camelot Castle, in its physical location, has been an extraordinary gathering of energy, of the people that come here, the people that we welcome. I come downstairs in the morning and I'm like, I never know who's going to turn up here next. I mean, and every day it is so exciting to see the spirits that are either returning here, having been here before, or are coming here for the first time. And when they tap into this sort of, the only way I can really describe it is a spiritually conscious network, which is something that you've been speaking to and has really been part of your your dream and something that you've been trying to and have in reality created. So Lara Compton actually says, and she's very knowledgeable on this subject, she says, this is the young lady who is her father, she just corrected me actually, she said he didn't used to run the, he doesn't run the Freemasons, he used to. So there we go. Lara Compton, the energy was first started in Albion through the ley lines. So she is in agreement with that. So it is very interesting. And I think here we have two levels of the game. One is the physical location of Camelot, which obviously Tintagel is stunning. And it's been a port of trade, you know, since Phoenician times, really, because, of course, it was huge tin assets here. But also what is very, very interesting now is the impact of how that mythology and how our ability to gain traction in America. I mean, at least 70% of the people on this feed tonight are from, they're international, and a lot of those will be from America. In fact, if everybody could just put in the comments, where is each of you from in America? And when you put your comments up, what we're going to do, my wife and I, and we like to do this, and if everybody could join in, and seeing as we have Simon here, if we could just flow good wishes to the location of where each person is, and the idea that perhaps you might have some good fortune and good luck, an increase in whatever it is that you want to have an increase in, and a decrease in whatever it is you want to have a decrease in. You know, I shouldn't think there's anybody out there that wants a decrease in luck, but we've got people here. Yes, very interesting from Gila Kaufman. Where does Israel fit into all of this? What is Israel's relevance?
With some truth, they can call themselves the chosen race. They were a group that accepted non-human intervention without fear. Wow. Most early emerging cultures would run away, but remember that most of the true Israelites were basically from Egypt. Many of the kings of David were in fact pharaohs before that. And I do not accept the timeline given to us by modern historians. I see it as much older. If we accept that Anu is the overall leader, and Enlil and Enki are the two sons, represented by the eagle and the snake. One was a great geneticist, and the other one was more interested in technologies of the space. And then they fought over dominion for control of human groups. And you know, there's no surprise that we can follow these particular groups through the pyramid culture. Pyramid culture is a sacrificial culture. There's no doubt that the same god of Egypt became the god of the Aztecs and the Incas, although there's a great time period. The question is about Israel. Israel has an energy field around. I'm Jewish myself. My father was an Iranian or Persian Jew, although I was born in what was called Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, and I was only a small boy when I was brought to Britain. The Jewish people, the energy and the history behind it is a problem because most world leaders do not know how to relate. If you go back to the situation with Nazi Germany, it makes it very difficult for any world leader to sit down with a Jewish leader without having issues, shall we say, clouding their judgment. And we find the situation where there are not many countries that could do what Israel has done and get away with it. So what I can say to you is that I have no problem with the Jewish race, just like that second-hand car sales garage. I have a problem with just a very few people who are at the top. And it doesn't matter whether it's the banking industry or the local circus. there are individuals who use the ladder to get there. So I'm very conscious that within our alternative industry, there are a number of demons, or they're demonized. And I just would like to point out that actually the vast majority of people in Israel want peace. 5-6 years ago, there were photographs from cell phones that were put around, which never appeared on the establishment media. 100,000 people turned up in Israel's capital to demonstrate for peace. Now, with a population of just a few million, 100,000 is massive. So, you know, unfortunately, we don't always understand the truth that's going on. So I'm always very careful when I think about a country and I think about its history.
Well, we were very blessed because we spent a few days in the King David Hotel in Jerusalem with Charlie Kirk, who, of course, is a great friend of President Trump. And we have had unique insight into what President Trump can do and will do and is en route to do to help bring about peace in that area. And I think everybody is going to be very happy when peace is finally achieved. And it's one of the main reasons that I think we should all try to work to get the president re-elected. I've just got a couple more questions here from our audience. Somebody's mentioned China.
Yes, that's exactly.
Do you have any thoughts on how China is evolving as it relates to extraterrestrial forces?
Well, let's do a bit of human stuff first. It was very interesting that China, through espionage, found out that they were going to be removed from the 5G network. And so what isn't understood by the vast majority of newspaper readers is that the reason that China took the action against Hong Kong was simply because they had been told that they were going to be removed from Britain's 5G network. So that's why they hit back. What China's doing is it's devolving its authority down to province level. This is because they don't want the outside world to associate the Communist Party of China to be in each zone. So rather than just have this one huge organization, they want to try and do it as separate groups. I'm very pleased that Australia now is closing the door on the Chinese involvement. China decided that it would rule the world not by the bomb and the bullet, but by manufacturing everything and then withdrawing that possibility. Your audience might be shocked to know that 75% of the entire shoe manufacturing in the world comes from China. So if China turned off the tap, we'd probably run out of shoes within 3 months. It is absolutely disastrous for sovereign nations to allow their own industry to run down. And in Great Britain, we had husband and wife teams. We had brothers and sisters, uncles and aunts who formed a business. That's been lost and destroyed. And I'm hoping that by leaving the European Union, those family groups can come back together again and start to provide services and make products that British and other people can buy. And in terms of the alien connection, China plays a double-edged game. They are in connection with a reptilian group, but the White Dragon Society and the Red Dragon Society, the two powerful gangs that run China, are somewhat divided over the way they should deal with these groups. But China is connected, and we shouldn't be surprised. Think of the dragon as the symbol that China has had for thousands of years. A very great people invented gunpowder. Goodness knows what else they did. Unfortunately, the leaders at the moment are possessed. I'm using that word deliberately, are possessed, and they are leading China to destruction.
Well, I think that's very, very interesting. And thank you so much for sharing so openly with us. Did you have any further points that you wanted to ask Simon?
No, I just wanted to ask one question. I heard you speaking in your interview some years ago about when you were asked if we're getting some help from, enlightened spirits. You mentioned children and the importance of children, and that there are children arriving on this planet that are different and enlightened, and they have access to their previous lives, and that they've been sabotaged. And I just wanted you to talk a little bit more about this, if you could.
Well, thank you very much for taking the trouble and the time to listen to one of my old interviews. Thank you. 75% to 85% of all the star kids or indigo kids or the special kids are not coming from the Pleiades. I'm sorry to break people's hearts, but Palladian people are beautiful. They're wonderful. They come here, they are hammered. Because if you have a pure heart and you come here, you do not contain the key codes to dismantle the fourth dimensional control system. That's why Palladian people come here with visions and ideas and plans and end up being destroyed. Now, the large number of these children that have come here are coming from Sirius, which is the upper fourth dimension. Those children will have brown eyes. And they are coming here, and they contain the key codes, but they contain a strong connection to the earth and to water. And it is these children over the last 50, 60 years that are now making their way through society and are challenging the demonic evil that is around us. Now, if you are an evil controller, you know that through demographics, at some point, you're going to be swamped by all of these star kids. And so every live birth is scanned. There are a number of these entities that can scan, and they will detect the soul of these children, and they will then try to interfere or hijack the family to disrupt that child. This is why we get walk-ins. So you might get a baby that's born in the hospital, and it contains a reptilian soul. So the bad guys scan it, and they say, oh, that's fine. That's one of us. And then when that kid is 12 or 15 years of age, that soul departs the body, and a Palladian or a Syrian or what have you soul comes in. It's got through the scanning process, and so that kid is no longer a child, it's a young adult, it can protect itself, and then it has a greater opportunity to bring change to the earth. And that is the battle that's taking place.
That's very interesting. Thank you for that answer.
Somebody just asked here, how does one find out where oneself is from?
Well, there are many ways. You can do some meditation. You can, consult somebody like me. But when I offered the services that I offered, I didn't realize that there was a massive vacuum in the earth. There are lots of fortune tellers, lots of people that can do that, but not many people that can look at the soul living inside a physical organic body and then give a reading from that. And knowledge is power. And often we are on this earth and most is hidden from us. So if we can understand and learn a bit more about who we are, it helps us to understand why we came here, what our mission is. And so, if that person so wishes, they can try and book me. I do open the books. They get booked quite quickly, but they can book an hour slot with me. And I'm very happy to answer any questions on a personal level and do a soul reading. I've always thought, this is half in jest, but it's also half serious, that I should open a dating agency, because I wouldn't ask you, do you enjoy golf? And do you enjoy golf? Or do you enjoy polo? I would say, you're a reptilian soul. Here's a list of all the other reptilian souls, because you will be totally compatible with this person. Or you're a Palladian, it's only going to work with another Palladian. So we'll find you a Palladian. It's a lot like people who go star watching, and they go to look for spaceships, and they go in groups. If you've got 10 people who contain an Andromedan soul and 5 people who contain a reptilian soul, you can't get those spaceships up. There'll be a fight. So really, if you're doing it, you should put all people together and group it. Now, in connecting consciousness, I don't do that. because I expect all people to be equal. So I've had to step in several times when these groups have tried. We have a program called MeWe Pro. We're very lucky to have that. It's a large platform. It's more secure than Facebook. It was designed by the corporates who were sick of industrial espionage. So all the corporates got together and they worked out a platform that allowed them to have their guys talk to each other without another company hacking in. So obviously the CIA can do what they want, but another company couldn't. So my American coordinator approached their CEO, did him a pitch, and he said, look, send me all the details about you, Connecting Consciousness. He read it and said, I love it. And you know what? He's given it to us free. We have access to this software program, this online program, which is totally free to our members. And it is the most secure network in the civilian sector that is available because of this. And I am so grateful to MeWe Pro and the chief executive, the goodness of his heart, he's allowed that. It would have cost us thousands, we couldn't have done it. And so we have the ability as members to communicate reasonably safely. And you know, that's what we are trying to do. We're trying to build an organization where people can communicate, support each other. You know, if you've had an experience, no matter what it is, there are very few people you can talk to or share it. It can destroy your family, it can destroy your employment. I couldn't get a normal job. Nobody would give me a normal job now. No way. But here we have a platform where we can meet like-minded people. No one's going to judge you. No one's going to laugh at you. And they will hopefully take you and trust you. So it doesn't matter whether you're reptilian or Palladian. We're all on the same journey. And the point is, if we're all going to get off at the same station, that means we've all made the same judgment about where we're headed. So, you know, I don't have any time for people who make judgments about how you look or how you sound. It's about what you do. And that's really what I think that we should be about.
Wow. Well, we're actually joined tonight by a very old friend of ours called Cheryl Yambach Rose, who, funnily enough, painted a portrait of Irina when nearly about 20 years ago now.
Do you have a painting by Cheryl, Simon?
I have 3.
I think I saw in one of your interviews, I think I saw it on your wall and I recognized it.
Well, what happened was that Cheryl had that painting up for sale and there was no way, you know, we run on a shoestring. We run on a shoestring and there was no way we could afford the painting. I mean, it was priced appropriately because it's a beautiful painting. But Cheryl has met my wife and said of that painting, this is the lady with the 12 strands of DNA in the painting in the hair. And Cheryl said, it needs to be in your house. And I said, yes, but I cannot afford it. So you know what? She reduced the price and she let us pay in installments. So we paid monthly for it over, I don't know, 2 years or whatever it was. And so we are absolutely honored to have, we have several of her paintings. This is an expensive one, but we're so honored to have it. And it's so important what it means because it is connected to the Arthurian line. And we were just so honored to have that painting here. So yes, well, she is a very gifted woman.
She's a beautiful soul.
Beautiful soul. And what a coincidence that she's on here tonight. And she did the most beautiful painting of Irina when we were first married and at St. Nectan's Glen, which is a sacred waterfall, which is right by Camelot Castle. It's where Merlin actually gathered the knights and blessed them and sent them out from that point to find the Holy Grail. And of course, some of them did find it and some of them didn't. But
shall we just, could you go and get the painting? Just 2 seconds. Could you go and get the painting? Your special painting. We'll get it. I'm just going to bring it and we'll just show you.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. I don't think we have the one that she did of Irina here. Maybe we do. There's a copy on the piano. The original is in Kazakhstan with Irina's parents, but
maybe we'll do advertising for her because Cheryl Not only is gifted, but what a kind heart to be able to say to me, look, I know you can't afford it, you don't have much money, but I tell you what, you can pay for it monthly.
Well, Cheryl, if you want to put your website on the comments section, I'll put it up on the screen.
Come through. No, come on, through. Come on. So that's the one that I think you might be referring to.
Yes. Oh my God. You have that painting. That is very...
And corner, I don't think we can see, but in the corner there's a little flying saucer, which means everything to us.
Hold it back a bit. I can't... Simon?
Simon? Yeah, hold it by your chair. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, let me just go back a bit. Can you see it there?
Yes, yes. It's beautiful.
That is beautiful. Mark, if you're watching, see if you can find the one of Irina.
It's by the piano.
It's by the piano, I think.
I love that painting by Cheryl. That is a really, really beautiful.
That's a hell of a
piece. I had a dream of I love the Lady of the Lake as well, and it was my dream to have one of her paintings, and then she offered to paint me, and I couldn't believe it, and she did.
Well, I think what happens is that because Cheryl has this unearthly gift, and I mean that in a positive way, when she comes across certain individuals, she can identify that person in history, and then she can work that in with the painting. And so, you know, they are not just painted, a bit like the Mona Lisa, really. There's so much going on. There's so much character to it. And also, I'm doing a lot of selling here for Cheryl, but she does some wonderful, they're not tarot cards, but they're oracle cards or spirit cards. And she does those.
She had some new ones come out, didn't she?
Yes, apparently so, which my wife has actually got already.
This is the one that she did of Irina.
Oh, I think you got
Oh, let me see. Hold that up.
But it's just a copy of it, sadly, because the original is in Kazakhstan.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
There it is.
How beautiful.
And that was Irina when we were first married.
Mm.
And she did it. It's absolutely beautiful. Now, Cheryl, you'll have to put your website up. It's lovely to hear from you. But she has actually posted here, not about her art, which is quite typical. She said, could you talk about the BioShield? Something 5G BioShield. What is that?
Okay, we came across a group of scientists who were working on a product that had a very beneficial effect in regard to 5G. I met the scientists. One was a Serbian, one was from Switzerland, one was a professor, and able to talk to him and understand the science to a certain extent. He was a professor, he has, I think it's a degree in quantum physics. So, of course, my understanding of alien technology doesn't quite work in the same way of human, but it's more to do with the Tesla concept. So if you understand the Tesla concept, you leave Earth science behind, and you can then work in a field that's much more beneficial. So they created a device which, I've got to be so careful what I say here because the way the government is at the moment, created a device that was very beneficial regarding 5G. And I then carried that on my website, simonparks.org, and anybody over a period of time, it's off now, the deal is off, but anybody who bought a shield, not from me because I don't make it, so they clicked on my link, it went to the BioShield company, and anybody who came through my website got an extra one free. So it was buy one, get one free. Then the company came to us and said, we love your logo. We have a special logo. I don't even know, have we got a logo we can just hold up, Becky? Find the logo. We created our Connecting Conscious logo, and they took the logo and put it on the BioShield. I'm going to hold one up for you now. Here's the BioShield here, and it has our logo, which is the infinity symbol on it, and the heart and the earth. And Becky created this, and that's our copyrighted logo, which is Connecting Consciousness. It represents the earth in the third dimension in green, moving to the fifth dimension in purple. So it's about the transference of humanity through.
Wow.
Anyway, the reason I think Cheryl wants us to talk about this BioShield was that the BBC received information from the elite to take down the BioShield company, and they've frozen the bank account of the BioShield company through trading standards, and they are trying to completely stop the sales of the BioShield.
Is that the same one Sasha Stone was helping with?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, because Sasha's a good friend of ours.
Well, I have met Sasha several times. We've been to his house. We've spoken. Sasha, of course, born in the same country that I was born. What a coincidence. He was born in Rhodesia, as it was then. So we share that African heritage. It's quite interesting. Sasha is a good man, and all good men and good women are being attacked at the moment. And the agents of the system, in this case, I'm afraid it's part of the BBC, who don't know what they're doing, they just do what they're told, and certain other organizations have made life very difficult for him. However, the scientists have empirical evidence. He has got legal advice, and there will be a court case, and I do expect him to win that court case. The BBC haven't even done their own duty to themselves. The law for the BBC is that if you're going to feature somebody on a television show, then you have to give that person the right to comment. That's part of the fundamental right in the BBC. Well, they did a hatchet job on me, and they didn't even bother to come to me for a comment or an interview. And that was when they attacked Sasha. They've done 2 television shows on him. Now, if I had the money, I would engage a lawyer, because we know we'd win, because the BBC had made no effort to, but I can't afford a lawyer. And these guys know it. It's the 10-to-1 rule. If they've got the money, then they just do what they want. So we support the BioShield 100%. And I know that Sasha and the scientists are doing a good job. And so Connecting Consciousness members received a buy one, get one free offer. So they were able to give it to their family or their friends. And, you know, we will do whatever we can to fight for humanity.
Very interesting.
Well, this is very, very good to know. And of course, somebody says here, Kathy Gray says, please ask Simon to talk a little bit more about our government. I assume
the UK government.
You're talking about the UK government.
UK, yes, that's
sure. Not a problem.
She also said previously, could you send some positive aliens to help out Boris? Because he has been... well, what do you feel has happened to Boris?
Reptilians, she said.
She said he's been abducted by reptilians. I don't know whether that's true or not. Perhaps he has, perhaps he hasn't. He definitely seems a bit out of sorts lately.
All right, okay. Boris is a good man.
I agree.
Boris is a good man. Boris is like President Trump. Boris is so eccentric that he's beyond the control of the evil people. In other words, he lives in this energy frequency that's so high that he is not controllable. The difficulty for Boris is that the British Army swear allegiance to the crown, not the Constitution. You see, in America, President Trump is the embodiment of the Constitution. So when the American military swear to the Constitution, they're actually swearing to President Trump. But Trump's in a very, very strong position. Poor old Boris ain't, because the troops are connected to Her Majesty and not Boris. Now, Boris got the virus, and he genuinely did get the virus. There's no doubt about that. He also knows the truth about the virus and how it's come about. But the elite in Britain, in many ways, is more entrenched and deep-rooted than it is in America. You know,
I would say we're the nest.
And Boris has a harder job. So Boris needs help and support. He's a good man trying to navigate through a great big pot of treacle.
Well, I think that's a fantastic description. And of course, we have been praying for Boris for quite some time. And I think our prayers have been landing true. I think things are getting better. I've been hearing some very good feedback recently from some old school friends of his who are friends of ours. And he, of course, was up at Eton but
yes.
we were at Winchester, so we don't have too many friends in common. Because Wycomists and Etonians tend only to speak one day a year when they're playing cricket. Other than that, they tend not to speak. But what can I say? I like Boris, and you know, I think he deserves all the possible help and support. And I'm pleased you like him too. That's good. So,
I were quite right in your intro. I didn't bother to interrupt you or correct you, but I will now. I served 3 terms of office. I was a Labour councillor in the London Borough of Hackney, and I did 2 terms of office. And for me, the second term was more important, because anyone can get elected, but you can't get the second election because you are standing on your record. And I am down in my record of gaining 75% of the vote in the constituency. That's 75%. And I'll say this because it excites me even now. It's years ago. But the Liberal leader came up to me and said, I can't beat you. I'm not going to put a Liberal up against you. And the Tory guy came to me and said, I can't beat you, but it's our policy to contest every seat. And I did 2 terms, and I left just to go to North Yorkshire, to Whitby, and then I stood again as a Labour councillor, and I was elected. And then 2 principles made me leave the Labour Party, and I'm now actually, you know, very much, I voted for Boris. Two principles. First was, as a Jewish person, I did not like what was occurring in the Labour Party, and I personally witnessed that, so I have no problem in saying what I saw. And secondly, I certainly don't want Europe. I love Europe. I think Europe's beautiful. I just don't like the bureaucracy. So those 2 principles made me leave the Labour Party, and I voted for Boris, and I will continue to vote for Boris. So, you know, if a political party loses somebody like me, I was the guy that would go out and knock on doors and put leaflets. If it lost someone like me, and I will never go back to that, that is an indication of how the energies of certain political organizations so removed from the principle that they first stood for and removed from the connection of the people that they just implode. And that's what happens to organizations that are not feeding off the love, in terms of, you know, the love of humanity feeds it because it's connected to it. If you cut yourself off, you will just wither away. And that's what happened to the Labour Party. And it's a non-entity now. It is irrelevant. Yes, it's Her Majesty's loyal opposition, but in terms of the hearts and minds of the people of Great Britain, the Labour Party is irrelevant for the next 25 years. And what Boris did was Boris connected with a common man and woman and said, forget politics, this is what I stand for. And I saw him as mayor in London, and I didn't see a Tory mayor, I just saw Boris. And I don't think people saw a Conservative Prime Minister, they just saw a man who was refreshingly different. And that's why they voted for him. So yes, I support Boris, and I have no problem in publicly saying so.
But do you think something happened to him after he was in the hospital?
Yes.
Maybe he had, what do you think?
Yes, I do. There was a concerted effort. It wasn't reptilians, in my opinion. It was a concerted effort to weaken him, not academically or on his intelligence, but to weaken his willpower, to make him think he couldn't bring forward the agenda that he had once done. And this was a demonic attack. It's not aliens, it is a demonic energy that was used against him. And if Boris was to ever contact me, I could actually make him better.
Wow. Well, Boris, if you are watching,
Boris,
if you are watching Camelot Castle TV this evening,
or anyone,
or anybody who knows Boris, there you go. That might help you out.
Nicola Land said, I knew I recognized you, Simon. I remember voting for you.
That's wonderful, but we don't know whether that is in Hackney in London or whether that's in Whitby in North Yorkshire.
No, we don't know that. Nicola, where was that? Maybe you can let us know.
Yes.
And Christy Chilton wants to know.
She asked that many times.
She's been asking this. She's been very patient. Do you know anything about CERN, the Hadron Collider? You did mention something about it previously in the interview, but what do you know about CERN?
In 2015, I had an embryonic connecting consciousness, and I had received information that CERN was going to attempt to do some great damage to the human race. I need to explain with my hands here that the energy of the Earth moves like this. Now, the Hadron Collider was going to be utilized to ride the waves of the energy, and then on the upswing, boost up to force a hole into the fourth dimension large enough so that things could come in and things could go out. So I organized I can talk like this because in the courts of Earth, what I'm about to say cannot be, because I don't accept it. So I don't have a problem, and I'll just tell you that it had to be stopped. And so I organized a 3-minute meditation with the people that we had. We had about 3,000, to take out the collider at its moment of peak power. The collider was guarded by sentient beings who were psychically protecting it. We were able to, and this is all recorded because the official news is that at the very moment that we went in, it registered a failure, and you can still go on and you can see the screenshots. It switched off. At the same moment, the Earth herself came to our aid. There was a massive electrical storm which took out the main power generator in France. The generator in France provides 75 or 80% of the entire requirements of power for the CERN collider. That was taken out. They went then to their backup reserve power, which of course wasn't enough to make this device cycle at the rate they wanted. And it was offline for about 6 months with the damage. The damage was done in the tube. It took them that long to find it. And people keep saying to me, don't we need to do more? And I said, no, we didn't. That was the crucial moment that humanity could have been hijacked. Now, I have had key people who took part in that. Many of them lost their teeth, the energy feedback. Some have lost their hearing, they're deaf in one ear. Some teeth are cracked. It was a real tussle, and I'm absolutely delighted. But because in the court, nobody will believe that, so there's no case to answer. But we will act, and we do not fear the evil elements, because when you have seen what I have seen, and you have witnessed and been in the presence of what I've been in presence, then there is nothing in this time, the time of the past or the time of the future, that holds any fear for me.
Well, that's a very, very interesting answer to that question. Lady Laura Compton, who of course is the daughter of the fellow that used to run the Freemasons, says, Simon Parkes, I'm going to email you. Please look out for my email. Thank you. Prayer.
Well, she won't know my email.
Ah, okay. So
get it from you guys. I guess you got my email, haven't you?
Yes. I'll forward that introduction. But I think somebody put your website on there. Can somebody contact you through the website?
It does go. It does go through. I have a very wonderful guy who does all my technical stuff, and so I do not understand the technology.
No, so it goes through him.
Awful at it. But you know, he does what he can. Often people write to us, and it just gets lost.
Well, I will give. You can text me your email after this, or Mark has it. Mark has it, and I'll give that to Laura.
That would be fun.
That'll be fine. Well, this has been very, very interesting, and of course, you know, the power of prayer, the power of we call them positive postulates, or the idea that you put out a thought and that thought can manifest, and other people use meditation, telepathic communication at varying wavelengths most certainly can be used in a very, very positive and enlightened way. And it sounds to me as if you and your group are doing the world a great service and are using that ability in a way that is constructive. And thank goodness you did. interrupt the Hadron Collider at CERN. I've never liked the idea of it. I think that it is something about it that is not right. I've never had a good feeling about it. Apart from anything else, it's just too low of a wavelength. It is not a spiritual activity. It is a material activity. And what I would like to see, and my challenge to all the great scientists out there, is put the same effort into studying the material and direct that towards studying the spiritual. Study the nature of man, study the mind, find out how the mind works, find out how the controller of the mind works, which is, of course, you, the individual, and find out your relationship to various different supreme beings and, of course, some of the beings that we've been hearing about tonight. And if you spent your time and invested your time, doing that rather than the ridiculous experiments I was told to do with a Bunsen burner at Winchester, I think you'd have a great deal more fun and be far more interesting. Science, of course, would become fun again. But I think we've explored the material world very, very effectively. I think we can do almost anything with the material world now. I think we are babies in nappies when it comes to the spiritual world and our understanding of that. So hopefully the human race will evolve from the nappy period, because I don't know about you, I'm bored of changing other people's spiritual nappies. I think it'd be quite fun if they were able to go to the loo on their own, to be absolutely honest. So there we go. Do you have a message for our audience? Sort of, if you like, a Simon Parkes final thought.
And how do you see the future, Simon?
Maybe I can put the two together.
Yeah.
I'm not at all frightened of the future. I have always believed that it is a positive outcome. But what I have said is a very bumpy road. I have no doubt of the outcome, but a very difficult journey there. But then good things generally don't get given to people easily. We have to show that we can get off the armchair and go out there and make it worthwhile. After all, why should the earth put any effort in for us if we're not prepared to put the effort in for the earth? So my message to people is, the days of hiding are over. You cannot now sit on the fence. You have to decide which side of the fence you are on. And once you as an individual have chosen that position, do not go back. Never take a step back. So please join Connecting Consciousness. Find people of like-minded groups. We've got so many different groups to talk about, and so many things that we can share and be part of. But ultimately, my message is be brave, be strong, because the future is actually very exciting.
Well, that is a fantastic message.
I love that.
And Simon, we'd love to welcome you at Camelot Castle. Please do come and we can have another discussion, and we'll have you live here. And I'm having a whole new TV system put in here because, of course, we're going to be expanding Camelot Castle TV. And those of you that are out there that would like to help with that, please do let us know. We're looking for talented people in all sorts of areas of life.
I like that message too.
Angie, who is from Florida, says, my favorite bit of news today is that Donald Trump is assisted by the fifth dimension. Love it. Well, you know, it's amazing what you learn on Camelot Castle TV. And I'm so pleased to have been able to welcome Simon here. And thank you so much for being so generous with your time.
What you have to also say, when we ask people where they're from, so many people from America and huge international audience.
Yeah.
So it's a truly international.
Well, what I'd like everybody to do, just as a closing here, is write where you're from. And when we see your name, we're going to say another little prayer. I know everybody did that already, but you know what? You're getting a double whammy tonight because we're feeling very generous with our postulates and intentions. So before we say goodbye to Simon, please just put up where you're from. And there's somebody from Wisconsin. Let's wish you some good fortune, and various other different people. There's some Palladians on here from the Pleiades, and somebody from the USA. Well, we wish you Pensacola, Florida, Australia, Western Australia, my gosh, Germany, New Zealand, Coromandel, New Zealand, from Peru, from Dorset, from Ontario. You see, this is the extraordinary thing about the Arthurian magnet, I would say, of greatness and love. Yes. From Germany, let's have some good luck in the north of Ireland, Ashford, Kent, Stoke-on-Trent, South Africa, Florida, Wadebridge,
local.
Debbie Benton from Wadebridge. You better come here and get some crumpet. Maplethorpe, Pennsylvania, Glasgow, Norfolk, Chester, Norway, Stoke-on-Trent. My gosh, there's so many people here. Sussex, Huddersfield, I can barely keep up. Cornwall, another Cornish, Christine Opie, do pass by. Brisbane, Australia, Israel, Halifax, East Sussex, Birmingham, Surrey, Cheshire, Cumbria. Okay, well, we are wishing every single person, Thailand, Hastings, Miss Holland, Hilde van der Meulen, is joining us from the Netherlands, one of the most beautiful young ladies in
Denmark.
The Netherlands, Holland. She's joined us. Michigan, Swansea, Southport, Southampton, Denmark,
Spain,
Hale in Cornwall.
We haven't had Phoenix yet.
We haven't had Phoenix. Is there anybody here in Phoenix?
We had a Romanian.
We had a Romanian, Spain, France, Auckland, Essex, Romania, Norwich, Jersey, Swansea, Wales. My God.
Canada, Ireland.
West, Canada, Ireland, London. We've got a lot of London. London's just kicked in. Look at that. St. Albans. Now, there's good luck for everybody watching here. Please intend good luck for these people who put their names up. Because you know what?
Put the comment, even if we haven't read it out.
And let's all also not forget to pray for Simon, who is in Staffordshire, Worcestershire. You are calling us from, aren't you? Worcestershire. And this is let's flow him some good energy as well. This would be a wonderful thing to do.
I just want to quickly, before we wrap up, I want to thank all of my coordinators in every country for putting in, for no payment at all, so much help and work, because each individual man and woman believes in the mission of helping humanity. So, this is my chance to thank all of them in one go. So God bless you all, and thank you very much for what you do.
Well, it's a beautiful, beautiful network that you are creating. And if there's anything we can do to help you with that, good intentioned people, I can't say this enough. The bad guys have had it their way for too bloody long. That's my opinion. And they're smart because they team up. They work as a team. The good guys tend to work on their own. And that's not that smart, because however clever you are, they say this. The Arabs have a saying in the empty quarter. They say the mistake of a clever man is 1,000 times the mistake of an idiot. And the mistake that most clever people make is they think they can do it all on their own. You can't. You need a team. You need a team of people, and especially in this game, because you need people to watch your back, and you need people to be loyal, and you need to create your own team. And as a team of freedom fighters, as a team of truth seekers, you basically can't lose, because actually there's very, very few bad guys. They just make a lot of noise, and it makes it look as if there's a lot of them. Mr. Everyone, by the way, if anybody on here has met Mr. Everybody, as in everybody says, we all know, Mr. All Knows, please introduce me. I've yet to meet him. I'm starting to think he may not even exist, because people have been saying to me for years, everybody knows. I've been asking people for months, could you please introduce me to Mr. Everybody? But I think it's just a big generality designed to disperse the mind, personally. Turns out it's usually one or two people with an idea, and somebody says that to somebody, and of course then somebody says everybody says. So, so many different places. I mean, I'm not going to read them all out. I'm going to go horse. Devon, Pennsylvania, South Texas, they're still coming up on the screen. It's wonderful, wonderful to have you here. Please share this feed, share it in your groups, and please help Simon Parkes. This is a man who should be helped. Thank you, Simon. It's wonderful. I'll say goodbye. We'll probably call you a little later.
Just before you go, how do people reach you? Through your website? Is it the best? If somebody wants to book a consultation with you, how do they do that? Is that website or?
simonparkes.org.
Simon Parkes, okay.
Yes.
Good.
Listen, God bless to both of you for what you do. God bless to all your membership, all your audience, and God bless to all of us, because it's going to be great. It's an exciting time, and I want people not to go forward fearfully, but to go with joy and happiness.
Well, I completely agree with you, Simon, and we will speak to you very soon.
And we hope you visit us soon, Simon. You're very much.
Oh, well, definitely, but only if there's crumpets on the menu.
We've definitely got a bit of crumpet down here. No question at all, and we will do that. Thank you so much.
See you soon. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you.
God bless.
Wow.
Well,
Now
we're frozen now.
Now we're frozen. Now we're frozen. Look at that. We are frozen.
Are we frozen?
We're frozen. I'm going to have to go back in.
My God.
There we go. We're back. There we go. There we go. Look at that. Now listen.
Are we live? Can you
we're
see
live.
us?
No, you can see us now. They can all see you
I'm not sure.
live.
I can see blue screen.
So we're live now. Now listen. Please share this. Everybody here. The one thing we would ask you to do. Okay. What you have to realize. This is our network. This is not John and Arena's network. This is Camelot Castle TV network. It belongs to all of us. And your job, our job, is to find the guests and to talk and make idiots of ourselves. Your job is to share and to help. And what we're looking for is people that want to help out on a volunteer basis initially, but this thing is growing. And I had a lovely email from somebody who wants to help out, and they said they know how to do all sorts of things that relate to expanding a network like this. We are about to invest a lot more resources into it. And it's
blue screen. Is it still blue screen, or are we back?
Oh, we got a blue screen. We got a blue screen, have we?
But not see. Hold on.
We got a blue screen.
Yes.
Oh, it's still a. How is that?
Frozen but heard. Maybe. Well, let's.
Frozen but heard. There we go.
Let's give it a minute.
That's the blue screen of death.
Yeah, Angie says yes, yes, yes.
Okay, well, you can hear us anyway. Can't see us, but you can hear us. And there we go. Sorry about that.
Sorry about the blue screen.
Sorry about the blue screen, but that is what we were doing. Now, let me put this back in the stream. Blue screen is still blue, still blue.
But they can hear you, so
they can hear. So listen, share the feed. What we saw there with Simon was incredible. And what we're going to be doing is some more broadcasts, and I will let you know when we do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Lots of love.
Lots of love.